Hi, everybody. So as Heidi said, we are Leslie Raymond and Jason Stevens of Potter-Bellmar Labs.
Howdy.
And as she said also, I'm the director of the Ann Arbor Film Festival, and I've been doing that for 3 years now. Before that, I was a teaching artist for 14 years. I got my MFA here at U of M at the art school in a program called New Genres, because they didn't know what else to call it. But it was at a time when I really wanted to get into digital and what you could do with digital art. As far as the Ann Arbor Film Festival, has anybody here ever gone to it? Okay, it's a good show of hands out there. It's important for me to let you know that we're always showing work that's made with moving image, and we're always looking for what's made with new technologies. And most of the time, new technologies are driven by industry demands. The kind of work that we're looking for is what's happening outside of that. So artists who are coming to work with new technologies, but in a way that is very experimental, where they're not maybe being prompted or supported by a company to do that, but out of their own creative drive and curiosity. And so they're free to experiment with form and style and content. And so I want to invite everybody, if you personally are making anything like that, or you know people doing that, or there's work out there in the world that you'd like to see come to Ann Arbor through our film festival, please, by all means, let me know. Talk to me afterwards. Get in touch with me, and I'd like to help make that possible. So the Michigan Theater is our host of the Ann Arbor Film Festival every March. We're the oldest experimental film festival in North America and maybe in the Western Hemisphere, and I might venture to say in the world, but that'll be an intern project to do a little research and vet that fact. So, Jason.
I haven't checked my mic yet. Am I here? Am I here? Hello, hello. So I'm Jason, and on top of working with Leslie and Potter-Bellmar Labs, I also run my own exhibit design company. We do work for museums, done work all around the country. We will be at the Hands-On Museum tonight, and I actually worked there for 8 or 9 years, and my fingerprints are all over that place. The third floor Light and Optics Gallery is one of my babies. I designed and built that, so hopefully you'll get a chance to see that tonight.
Make sure to check it out at the party later.
Did work at, last year I did a project at the Museum of Natural History on the U of M campus called the shape of space-time. This was like a dream come true, the mirroring of this high physics with interactive exhibits. But as many of you may be familiar with, you get this dream come true project, and then it's got like a 5-week deadline, and you spend the vast majority of the time stressing about whether you're actually going to get it done and not actually living the dream project. But it was cool. It's supposed to last 3 months. It lasted like 13 months. They just took it down recently. So yeah, I've done work at the DIA, Motown Museum, all around. I do all kinds of stuff. But tonight, whatever it is, it's dark in here, we're going to talk about Potter-Bellmar Labs. Oh, I hit the special button.
That's pretty special.
Thank you. Good night.
We're going to go to the beach now.
There are only 4 buttons on here, and I managed to press. Yeah, thank you. Okay. And we are specialists in technology. There we go.
This is a performance that we did at the Duderstadt Center up on North Campus, which is probably the best black box theater in town, if you don't know about it. And I see Tom Bray over here, who is the mastermind over at the Duderstadt.
We do a range of work, and this is just one example, kind of one end of the bell curve. We do a lot of performance video and sound, where we're mixing the audio and the video live for the audience and projecting it. And then this is kind of, the other end of the spectrum. Oh, the image is cropped. Multimedia installation. So there's actually 3 holes here, where there's a peephole, and you can see the video through the peephole.
This is at the Three Walls Gallery in San Antonio. This is a good friend of ours, ran gallery space out of her studio, so when there would be openings, we could go hang out in her studio behind there and drink absinthe all night.
Yeah. We'll come back to this briefly in a little while. Another multimedia installation These are also little, it's hard to photograph peephole work, but these are little video peepholes. You look inside and you see this whole nother world. We'll come back to that too.
So we're really excited to have recently been commissioned to do new work. And it's going to be for the Photo Focus Biennial in Cincinnati coming up in October. It is a space called the Waveform Gallery has invited us to do projection piece on a dome. And we are, here's the dome. We'll be rear projecting from inside, so you'll be able to see the piece on the outside at night.
These people be watching. These people shouldn't actually be in there.
Yeah. Yeah, they're bugging us. So we're working on new work for this. It's going to be a series of, this is a little bit what that's not our project, but that's what the dome looks like. Apparently. We're going to be making...
Well, wait a minute. We're going to say that, look, go back to that dome picture. So some of you might be familiar. This is, when you project a video, it's typically a rectangle, and you're typically projecting onto a relatively flat surface. This is a real challenge because it distorts the corners. In fact, a dome is the opposite of flat. So you're distorting everything except the very center of the image. So there's a lot of people doing projection mapping now. Maybe you've seen it, really cool stuff where they'll project on the front of a building and the building will appear to fall apart, and the video projection actually interacts with the architecture. We're actually not going to do that. We're doing something a little more low-tech and cooler.
So we're making a series of these animated GIFs. They're based on a series of collages that I've been working on as the director of a nonprofit now, trying to be a creative person and also have a 5-year-old. You have to be very creative in how you make time for your creativity. So the collage work has been two-dimensional, cut out on paper, and then this project has given us the opportunity to take that another step. So the elements of the collages are, I'm scanning them into the digital environment and then able to animate them in kind of animation is a very old and basic process of move, click, or in this case, it's take the individual pieces and move them around on the canvas, the digital canvas, do an export of each frame, and then bring them back and make them into a GIF.
So what we're going to do is create every time I hit the back button, okay. It stops the GIF? Weird. Okay, it's innovation. So these will be like little characters that are moving around on a scene inside the dome. And the whole pretense of Wavepool's exhibition is the peeled eye. And it's about surveillance, this kind of omnipresence of the screen and the camera, this world we now live in. And so these little characters are going to be observing each other, and we're going to work out some way that they actually are sometimes looking at screens, and the screen blows up, and you're looking at who they're looking at. It'll be easier if I could actually show you the work, but this is a work in progress.
So they'll be moving around the screen. They'll be interacting with each other, and that will be through a jitter environment that Jason's building.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, and I also wanted to say too that in terms of creative practice and process, since we do so much on the computer, it's really important to us to stay grounded in the physical world. You want to advance?
We're going to come back to that. 1 second, I have to finish what's in my notes. Okay.
Collaboration.
Yeah, well, that's number 3. Just hold on. Don't say that word.
I'm getting ahead of ourselves.
We're going to go through a few works that we've done that kind of sort of build up to this work. I don't know. It's also arbitrary. But there are 3 points that we're trying to make with these, and we might not actually come out and say the 3 points, so I want to say them now. Just get it out of the way. One of the arcs that our work has always followed is removing the moving image from the screen. And you'll note we often say moving image, we don't say video, and that's because we identify the art of the moving image as being much more vast than video. Video is like this little time in history. Moving image theoretically goes back to cavemen and cavewomen with a campfire making shadow puppets, right? There's moving image projected from an illuminated source onto a screen. And so that's been happening. There's been shadow puppetry in Indonesia, all kinds of different moving image art. And then the movies took over, and the movies have dominated and actually oppressed any other form of the moving image. Then we got the TV. The TV ended up with a couple different aspect ratios, and now we've got these things. And one of our favorite movie directors, David Lynch, is horrified by the fact that people are watching his movies on these little screens. So part of our work is to try and give moving image a life of its own, so that this thing doesn't actually matter. That you're not looking at a screen and you're not thinking about the medium, right? There's two mediums there. You're not thinking about the technology, you're thinking about the art itself. Point number 2 is the way in which we use our digital tools. And we obviously use a lot of digital tools, but it's part of our mission to make sure the digital tools are always supporting work in the physical world. Neither of us want to be people who are locked into this, and our peripheral vision starts to die away if it hasn't already, and our lower backs start to wear down.
Our butts get big.
Our butts get big. But beyond that, the reason we became artists is because we do love doing things. And so whether that means in the process of creating or in the process of showing our work, there's always something more than the digital environment. Number 3 is the word that Leslie already let loose. I have a hard time with it. It's collaboration. And love you, Leslie.
Yeah, we're also married.
Yeah.
We have a child together.
Yeah. That came after we started working together. But
she's one of our more recent creations, collaboration.
Yeah. We don't usually put it that way. It's been and if she were here, which we were smart not to.
She would be here collaborating with us. Yeah.
Anyway, we've been doing it for 15 years, which actually, it's hard enough being married, really. I mean, there's sometimes where it feels like there are 7 days in a week, and we spend 4 days of those fighting. That's not always true, but it feels that. If you're married, it gets to feel that way. And definitely working together, we've had all of those experiences. We've been in places where we're like getting a divorce after the performance. That's it. We're going on stage.
Yeah, we had a huge knockdown, drag-out fight before we came out.
That's not even true.
But we could just set all that aside. Right?
That's good. And we'll talk again after the show.
So back to talking a little bit about the practice and working with in the digital realm. It's really important to us to make sure that we're physical people. We want to be in the physical realm. We want to have a physical practice. So I was working on these physical collages, cutting out images from like National Geographic and other places. Better Homes and Gardens, right? And so I was just working on a series of these sort of late at night after our collaboration of our child went to bed, and being able to just keep the creative juices going. So looking at these up on the wall for the last year or so, we were both inspired to see what would happen if we took it into the digital realm and started to animate them. So that's what's happening.
So this is an example from several years back. We were living in Ferndale, so it's been 4 years ago. A friend of ours in North Carolina is an electronic musician, and he sent us this track. It's one of his noisiest, craziest tracks. And super noisy. You'll hear it in a second. And he asked us to make a video for it. So,
a music video.
A music video, yeah. So we set a speaker down on its back, and we put iron filings on the speaker cone and shot that while we were playing the music, the noise through the speaker. We shot that, and then we processed it in is anybody familiar with Max MSP Jitter? Cycling 74, we've got 2 or 3 people out there who are familiar with it. Okay, this is a programming environment we work in a lot, and I'll open the door to that in a little bit. But we did some video processing, so just to say it was in the physical realm, and then digital processing made it what it
right, and
is.
the image is generated from a physical process that's created by the music.
The play button, right?
Going to the beach.
Oh, there's a... rendering there, those like topographical lines are actually the back end, the video processor.
It's a
revealing
very
itself.
abstract music video.
Yeah. So this is something totally different. This is, tell this story, Leslie. It's a
Yeah,
good
okay.
story.
This is, we did a series of videos for a project that ended up on Manhattan in Midtown. This is called
December 2009, so the crash had just happened.
Right.
Manhattan was like, as a region, was depressed. Everyone was depressed.
Yes,
I could tell
people
stories
were
about that too.
upset. So we're in San Antonio, and we had planned this for to capture some video. We set up this little video salon in a back shed, maybe you could call it, of our artist friend Franco Mondini Ruiz's complex. He was having a party, and this is
lavish party.
Yes, this is a Rome Prize winner, Whitney Biennial participant who had a studio in New York. Just a beloved son of San Antonio.
He had goats running around the party.
Very extravagant.
And boys dressed as goats.
Yeah, former lawyer turned artist, and just very quite a character. Anyway, so we set up this video salon and invited the folks there to participate in our efforts to send something to New York.
Needed a little San Antonio juju, right?
Right.
So we asked people to go ahead and cast spells. We're here in San Antonio. Cast a spell that people in Manhattan might find useful. And then we gave them props, different magical props. And this was such a short excerpt, but she's rubbing an egg on this guy, and he's going through convulsions. And then we processed all this video, made these videos that showed just down the street from Times Square, actually, when New Year's Eve was happening. So we definitely helped maybe change a few minds, cast some spells on the Manhattanites.
Hopefully.
Okay, so let's geek out a little bit and talk about our gear and our software, right?
Right.
That's what this crowd really wants.
Yeah, and I do want to say that when we started to do this live cinema, performing with sound and image, the image being mixed like a DJ would mix sound, it was because we started to go we saw music shows where what we would see is like two guys in hoodies with their laptops all hunched over pressing buttons, and it was not very interesting to look at. And I kept thinking there's a missed opportunity here. And that missed opportunity was, I think, to have moving image, and so that's what we started doing.
Such a funny picture.
Yeah, this
I'm
is
so bored.
Yeah. VHS. So in the first rig was a Videonics MX1 analog mixer, VCRs. It'd have to carry at least one crate of VHS tapes queued up to different samples, and then here's a bunch of DVDs back there of different, lots of video clips that were prepared in advance.
You also have to notice remote controls. Lessa was actually performing by remote control. You should have the clicker. So much more experience.
I already done my time with. And then we evolved to this was incredible because these were little portable DVD players, and I mean that all those fit in one suitcase. So it was no longer, can you imagine, like two VCRs and two regular DVD players, plus all the milk crates and everything. So this really made it a lot easier to get around.
And you're using a
That's the
Videonics.
MX1, yep.
Yeah, which is kind of the classic in video mixing. And I just got a mixer, an iRiver MP3 player, which was like my favorite device until I tripped over the power cord and it smashed on the floor. And a Mac laptop, whichever generation that is, probably running Reason, which is a music software, kind of emulates the musical studio, or Live, Ableton Live, which is also electronic musicians use a lot. Lets you queue up a bunch of little sound clips and play them in different orders, compose on the fly, if you will. I was doing audio, she was doing video. It's not always that easy. Sometimes we mix it up a little more, but in that case.
Here we are at the Experimental Television Center. Our daughter was, 6 weeks old here?
Yeah.
This is a residency we did in upstate New York. There's an incredible history of media art and experimentation in media art in upstate New York because there was like this Rockefeller money in the 70s that funded a lot of experimentation that proliferated throughout the state. So Experimental Television Center was a place where there was experimentation going on. Back here we have the Dan Sandine analog image processor. When I was in college at the Art Institute of Chicago, I actually learned video processing on one of these. the grandfather of video art in America, Namjoon Paik, who was a Korean-born artist, used to come here in the 70s and help build machines. So some of these things, you know, he had his hands all over these. But this was sort of like, if you wanted to like change the contrast on your signal, each one of these is about a shoebox size. And what you would do is you would run your video signal through your BNC cable, plug it in there, and then you could adjust on one knob. That would be the contrast. And then you would take your cable and pull it out of there and put it into another box to make an adjustment, you know, in another parameter. And it would basically adjust the electronic signal and make those adjustments. And then it would get more complicated if you wanted to do it in color with red, blue, and green. You'd have 3 cables going in and out of each box.
So your RGB.
RGB. Yeah. And the cool thing was that, so all this is here, it's been there, it's memorialized, all these incredible artists working on it. And then right here we've got the G5s, and these are running Max MSP Jitter.
Right, which is essentially an emulation of this editing by patch cord, which is a very physical process. And you know the signal is traveling through the wire. So it's really manipulating the video in a very physical way. I mean, about as physical as you can get with an electronic thing. So here's a little bit of like a back-end Max MSP Jitter, and I'm just going to call it Jitter. That goes by several names. And as you can see, it's a visual programming language. You get to make your little objects, and sometimes the objects actually look like things, and then you draw the little patch cords for the signals to travel from one thing to another. It's a joy to work with. You don't have to think about the right words to use. You just have to pick the right icons to line up. And so this is the back end. And basically it's to create something like this, which is what we are often looking at on our computers when we're performing. It's funny, this is actually, I took a screenshot when this was glitching because some of my objects are totally in the wrong place.
So what we're seeing here, we were both, one of us was on each side of this, and one of us was, you know, controlling one of the images. And for this project, the images were panoramic time lapses that we had shot. Jason had used an Arduino to adapt a tripod head that our digital camera sat on. So the camera, you could adjust the rate at which the pictures were taken, and using the Arduino, you could adjust the speed at which the camera panned around.
So we would go, maybe we want to, we'll talk more about the panorama project in a minute. This is another back end, a little bit of a cleaner back end for another project we did called it's gone through several names. 4 combinations, 4 stories,
the 4
episodes,
things?
4 things, yeah. Where we're mixing 4 different things. In this case, antenna, time-lapse, panorama, and billboards. So this is our screen. Oh, we're playing off one laptop. Both of us were using MIDI devices plugged into one laptop that was controlling the screens. It's incredible. Every generation of laptop gives you more video processing capability. So
right. And
that's still a hill we're climbing and enjoying the climb.
Right. And then going back to the evolution of our performance rig, once things became possible to mix, when it became possible to mix video efficiently on laptops, we made the transition to doing all of the video instead of carrying the DVD players and all that.
And that's when we took a train tour on the West Coast and hit towns all along the West Coast. Oh, we hit the Midwest too. When we could start touring, and we toured by train.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was major though, going from the analog mixing to the digital and figuring out how to take the archive of images and digitize them and put them into a form that was easy to access and understand.
You can see a little bit of our jitter patch right there. It's kind of jittering in that image. But do you want to say something about this project? Because I think we're going to show a little clip from it. Yeah.
Yes. Just before we show the clip, just a little context. I Am Curious Remix. This was a commission by Aurora Picture Show, which is a fantastic microcinema in Houston. They do a festival every year called Media Archaeology.
Yeah, stop and think about that for a second. Media Archaeology. When they pitched this to us, we were like, oh, are you kidding? We're going to go digging for TVs or something.
So we were given the possibility of choosing a site in Houston. We went around, looked at a lot of different places, and we were shown the Heights Theater in the Heights neighborhood.
No, it was actually an art gallery. But both Leslie and I noticed that there was a screen painted on the back wall, and we asked what was up with that. And they directed us to this old newspaper article. This is like the media archaeology is oozing out of this place. It used to be a movie theater. And it's no longer a movie theater because angry crowds had burned it down in 1969 at the screening of this film, I Am Curious Yellow, which some of you may have heard of if you were around in the 60s.
Anybody ever hear of it? Yeah, a few people. We'll talk a little bit more about it in a second.
That's our tool, what we're looking at.
So we ended up using the film in our piece. We remixed it.
It was a film, this particular film, they had shot so much footage that the director actually made a second film afterwards using the leftover footage. So there's I Am Curious Yellow and there's I Am Curious Blue, which isn't really a sequel, it's kind of a companion film. And so we mixed the two together. This image is great because we're literally like doing a yellow and blue thing. But we totally remixed both films together, recontextualized them. And if you're a film geek and you know this film, this was totally a work of art for you. And, okay, so make it just...
Yeah. So I'll just say a couple things about I Am Curious, the original film by Vilgot Schumann. He's a Danish filmmaker. When it came out in Scandinavia, it was only scandalous because of the political content, but in the States it was banned for its sexual content. It was considered a pornographic film. But it wasn't pornographic in the usual sense. I mean, there was sex, but it wasn't like very glamorous or sexy sex.
It was anti-glamorous, if anything.
Yeah.
You'll see it towards the end of this.
Yeah. And it was really, I think what was one of the things that was so transgressive about it is that it showed a young woman, a 22-year-old, and her sexual escapades as she was, growing into her own adulthood, and showing a young, empowered female character, which was, now in the late '60s, that was just outrageous.
There are a lot of parallels in the films, the two films, so we're riffing on that. The same footage shot at the same party, but I can't remember. One of the films, they're talking to the boys, and in the other one, they're talking to the girls, and it's such a crazy stark contrast. Listening to what the boys are talking about before they go into this dance party.
And it's part narrative, but there's also a little bit almost documentary type cinema verite footage in it as well.
Yeah, here's about as romantic as the sex gets.
This was a great opportunity for us to really deconstruct and look closely at the work. We use a lot of material that is pre-exists, and then we also shoot a lot of our own material.
Yeah, we probably watched this film 9,000 times. And the first 8,000 were totally grueling, but then I learned to really love the movie. I really do, but I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. I think this clip is almost, yeah, there we go. Okay. Move along. Just pause, huh?
Here we are.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here we are in the back of the big red van. A lot of the work that we do is site-specific. We really like to be able to do something on the fly, guerrilla style. This is an example of that.
Yeah, again, trying to get the moving image off the screen. So by hopping in the van and projecting anywhere, we're kind of doing that. Here, the house becomes a screen.
This is the Saladia's space. It's a gallery also in San Antonio. So we're actually projecting an image of the gallery shot during the day onto it at night. And so we have people socializing and standing in front and becoming part of the existing scene in real time, but there's this...
We also had mics wired all around. There's a party happening in the back. We had speakers set up, so people were coming up all night saying, "Dude, I just heard myself in the backyard." Yeah, aren't we clever?
It's another site in San Antonio on the San Antonio River, so pulling up and running the gear down to the river. This was for the Bike Gang Summit, so this was hundreds of bike riders who came.
Like a midnight ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoa!
Wow, that's really compressed.
Yeah.
This is at the McNay Museum of Art. This was a performance that we did where we beamed ourselves in remotely from Ferndale.
Yeah, via Skype. This was our first, I think, only performance by Skype. And it actually worked, but of course not without glitches and, oh, wow.
It's called telepresence.
Yeah, that's our guy on the ground at the McNay Museum trying to troubleshoot our Skype connection. But it actually went off okay. So those site-specific works, we're projecting really large and trying to create, trying to change the space. And then we do other, kind of the opposite, peepholes, where it doesn't matter where you are, we try and create some new world behind the peephole. So our theory with the peephole is that when you look in, you forget where your body is and you go into some other space. This is back to what we were showing earlier, the Three Ethers project.
Where we had the absinthe in the back room.
Yeah. These three sculptural forms that represented these kind of otherworldly beings, and you look through the peephole and you see inside the mind of these otherworldly beings. And then there was sound being piped through that transported you, in theory. This was so the Panorama project. This is
So these are two cabinets that we designed and built to house the Panorama project. And here they're
set back from the window.
They're set back, but they were really pushed up against the window so that somebody could walk up to them from the outside and look in.
At night or whenever. So yeah, we had to design this system in order to hide the image from the sunlight. So the peephole was very practical in that sense. Right, so we designed it all up. This is like our only 3D work when we do SketchUp designs of cabinets. But we had to design it so that we had Pico projectors lined up, and we were doing what's it called, edge seaming, but low budget edge seaming to get all of the projections to line up. And then you can see there's this is the space that you're looking into. And that's the kind of image that you're seeing. So we've taken the whole aspect ratio here and stretched it out. And it's this moving panorama Leslie mentioned earlier. We had this tripod head. We shot these long panoramas. We would go sit someplace for 2 hours and let the camera do its business. Over the course of 2 hours, it'd go 360 degrees.
So that's another example of building some kind of physical process into our practice so that we can get off the computer.
Sweltering in the 105 degrees. We shot all over Southwest United States.
Right, with our 1-year-old.
Yeah, it's true. Oh boy.
These are really compressed. This was just kind of this came probably from a proposal, but what
we
you
were
this
prototyping
is
at this point.
prototype. So in the final one, you didn't have the bars between the images, and I think this was 5.
It was 5.
5 long.
And the reason we're showing this and not the actual thing is the actual thing doesn't read on a screen like this. It's really, we've exhibited it in an art gallery. It was projected giant, and it was beautiful. But really, it's for a peephole. You have to see the video, and it's what it was created for. So
Fortune, right?
Yeah, Fortune. So this is where our talk goes into more of the collaboration and ways in which we create work that really finishes itself away from us, like we invite the audience to join us or help us, or we create work in the case of what we're going to do inside of the dome that we're actually building an engine that's going to create video throughout the week, and we don't actually have to be there. But we have no idea what it's going to do. It's just kind of setting up a situation. Lots of random functions, branches of random functions. So back in 2009, I believe it was, we did the Fortune Tour, which we took up the West Coast by train, but we kicked it off on a rooftop. You can see the city off in the background.
I'm surprised nobody fell off that roof.
There was no guard railing. There was a lot of drinking happening. But it was, without getting too much into the weeds, it was this fortune-telling thing where members of the audience would draw a card, and we went through this whole ritual process of reading the collective fortune of the group, right? And then we would create this video, as opposed to an astrologer saying you're going to get rich today, we had this video that we would create that kind of told the fortune. It was abstract, artsy, and cool. I think a lot of people got a lot out of it, and we have the trailer here for it.
On our future program.
Turn up the volume.
A personal story.
In the medium of pure cinema.
Ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, watch the screen.
what they're going to play today, they have never seen before. So, and that happens on a daily basis for them.
Yeah, so that was one of our experiments with trying to get the audience to participate or interact. And I think this is probably something people in this room have dealt with in a different way. It's something that we've dealt with for so long now. Even one of our early installation projects was video and sound, but it required gallery goers to go and pull on a cord in order to hear the sound, or these very simple interactive devices, which we thought would be very successful, but it was remarkable how much people were afraid to touch the art. In an art gallery situation, you're not allowed to touch the art.
We're just trained. You're not allowed.
Yeah. So we had to put big signs up saying, please touch the art.
But it's really important to us to create avenues that those who wish to go a little deeper and participate, we want that. We want to be able to collaborate with the audience. We want to be able to make space for that. And I think when the audience does and is allowed to come in a little bit, then the experience becomes deeper for them, and it's more enriching.
We kind of do UX design for ourselves. I forgot to mention that I also teach. I teach at Lawrence Tech. I'll be teaching at U of M in the fall. And I teach a little bit of UX design. And I guess what I'm getting at, why some people in this room might be familiar with this, is I hear a lot of echoes of the same concerns. You know, when you create an app, and how do you get to people's intuition that they're supposed to swipe, or supposed to press this button, or that the 3 little dots actually mean something?
Or pull the wooden handle.
Yeah, pull the wooden handle, right. You put a wooden handle there, people are going to pull it, right? Well, not always. So we've done other audience interactive things where we've had people do intertitle cards, and we work the intertitle cards. Always a way of trying to get people personally invested in the product that we're creating, right? So that's just not us here looking like we're checking our email while this crazy video goes on, but that there's actually a part of you up here as well. That's it.
There was just one, I just wanted to say one final thing. I wanted to give another plug for the Ann Arbor Film Festival by saying that it was founded in 1963 by one of Ann Arbor's great disruptors, George Manupelli. So I've loved hearing people talk about our disruption culture in Ann Arbor, and just want to, if you haven't been to the film festival, encourage you to check it out on that grounds alone.
Cool. On that note, wish us luck in Cincinnati. We have a lot of coding to do. It's a jitter.
Thank you all.